We have the four different classes. One's going to be the domain of the main character, one the domain of the obstacle character, one the domain of the objective story, one the domain of the subjective story. Explanations of that are in earlier tapes. But that domain means it will be explored, like by the main character or explored by the obstacle character, and it could be anywhere, depending on where you put them, determines the perspective of the story, and therefore gives meaning to the story. Kind of a genre feel by how you line up the points of view from those four essential through lines with the four different classes of considerations that go on in a single mind. All right. Each one then will have four different types in it. And they will all be explored as the plot progresses, as we'll see in plot progression. So you'll end up exploring all of them over the course of the story, each through the mechanism of a different point of view, a different through line. However, one of them will be the chief concern in each through line. So the main character will have a concern, the obstacle character will have a concern, the objective story will have a concern, and the subjective story will have a concern. Now the thing that you run into is the Dramatica software insists that the objective story concern is also the goal. This doesn't have to be the case in Dramatica theory. Why did we put it in the software that way? God, the software, there's so many concepts in Dramatica that are so new and so hard to grasp because they're different than anything you've ever heard before, that we just felt that if you put in too much stuff, too much flexibility, the software would become useless because no one would understand how to use it. So the thing is that we looked at the stories being told mostly in Hollywood stories or popular books, and 90% of the time the goal is the same as the objective story concern. But the goal could also be the main character concern, or the obstacle character concern, or the subjective story. Any one of those could be the goal. Because these additional story appreciations that we're talking about don't occur independently of storytelling. They require emphasis in the storytelling to determine what they are. Well, it's a little tough, like I said, but if the main character has a concern, what if you make that the goal of the story? That means then that the storytelling emphasis is on the main character's concern, and it feels like whether the main character will fulfill their concern or not, their personal goal as it were, that becomes the focus of the whole story, even though everybody else may be involved in some other outside goal, other concerns. There's not even another goal in them. For example, the objective story may have everyone concerned with the future of this, the future of that, the future of that, but there is no central concern that they have that ties them all together. The only central concern is the main character, who has his personal concern for something, and everyone in the story might focus on his concern. Will he make it? Will he won't? Or at least the audience sees that as being the most important singular concern in the story. So it's a little bit of a difficult concept, but I just want to let those of you know who are told your goal has to be this in the Dramatica software by virtue of answering other questions, that in fact that particular appreciation, these additional story appreciations, goal, requirements, consequence, they depend on storytelling emphasis as well, but Dramatica just locks them in because almost always in Hollywood stories and popular books in America, the goal is almost always the same as the concern, the same item. If you want to spread it out a little bit, at least Dramatica allows this. If you have a goal of obtaining, it doesn't have to necessarily be that they're all going after one item that only one of them can have. Just like an officer and a gentleman, some will achieve it, some won't. And the degree of success depends on how many did and how many didn't.